My name is Dick O'Brien, born in Westington, South Dakota, September 19th, 1924. So I'm 92 years old.
Wow. What war or wars did you participate in?
I participated in World War II. I was drafted in the Army at age 18 and served. I ended up serving in the infantry with General Patton's 3rd Army.
Mr. O'Brien landed on Omaha Beach in Normandy on July 6th, 30 days after D-Day. From there, him and the 137th Infantry fought battles in the hedgerows, across France, into Germany, and finally met the Russians at the Elbe River.
What made you interested, or what made you go into the war? So you said you were drafted?
Well, I was drafted, but what happened? The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on a Sunday in December 7th, 1941. And the next day, Monday, we went to school, and all the discussion was, we were seniors in high school at the time, what are you going to go in? And of course, everybody wanted to go in the Air Corps. That was the glory service. So I said, well, I'll be a pilot, like 90% of the guys. So I went and had my eyes checked. 20/20 vision, good. Depth perception, good. And then they gave me this book that said, read the numbers. So I kept going through the book, trying to find numbers. Finally, as I got to the back of the book, I started to see numbers. I'm color deficient. Not completely colorblind, but can't get in the Air Force, can't get in the Navy, can't get in the Marines, but the Army takes everybody.
In 1939, there was only about 190,000 people enlisted in the Army. By 1945, there was almost 8,268,000.
You just said what branch you served in? You served in the infantry?
I ended up serving in the infantry. My basic training was in Fort Eustis, Virginia, in anti-aircraft. Didn't get to fire the gun, got to clean it, because ammunition was scarce.
Basic training lasted about 13 weeks. After, Mr. O'Brien was sent to radio school and learned Morse code.
And before I finished the code school, they interviewed me and said, there's a college program that started, Army, it's ASTP, Army Specialized Training. And it's, I said, well, where is it? And they said, well, it's at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. And my sister was working in Georgetown, my older sister.
He decided to go, but when he got there, he could only choose to major in Japanese or mechanical engineering.
I knew I could never make Japanese. So I said, well, I guess mechanical engineering. And I'm good in basic math. And algebra, I was okay in. When I got to geometry, spatial relations is not my thing. So, and then analytic geometry and calculus, that was way above me. But when I got to Georgetown, they said, we're going to make you mechanical engineers in 2.5 years, a very fast program. They went through math so fast, they got to analytic geometry and trig, and I was done. So I lasted 6 months. Then they sent me to where I really was needed in the infantry. And that's where I joined the 35th Infantry Division. They were almost ready to go overseas when I joined them. And I'll tell you a funny story. I got to first night. I'm up in the barracks on the 2nd floor, about 20 guys, and so I've been in radio school and ASTP. We wore pajamas at night, so I got into my pajamas, and one of the old guys who was a bootlegger. Your dad will explain to you what a bootlegger is, but anyway, they were guys that made whiskey, and a pretty rough group. He said, look at that guy, look at that college boy. He wearing pajamas. They were all wearing shorts and undershirts. So I took my shirt off and whatnot. But I had, from age 14 to 17, for 3 years, I was a delivery boy for the Los Angeles Times. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, went down, packed up my papers, delivered 100 papers, and rode back to my house. And had a second breakfast, and then went to school. That was 6 miles every day for 3 years. So I had great legs. And so when we had that first march, it was I think a 6-mile march. And, it was easy for me because I had good legs. And then one of our guys, Ramirez, he was a real athlete. He was the best athlete in the group. And he took off running. I said, well, I'll chase Ramirez, never catch him, but I can chase him. So we got back to the base, and pretty soon, 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, the guys come walking in, So after that, they didn't call me college boy anymore. So I was one of the guys then. But in probably a month, we went up to New York City. We had one night in New York, and then we got on boats and went to England.
The 137th Regiment took a ship to Newquay in England, where they continued to train in preparation for Normandy and their invasion of France.
The hedgerow country, hedgerows, you think, well, that's nothing, And from the air, they said, well, our tanks will waltz through that stuff.
But what ended up happening was that the hedgerows were so big and had such long routes that the tanks would go over them, not through. This exposed their non-armored bellies, leaving them prone to German attack. Luckily, a sergeant named Cullen devised a way to go through them by putting spears on the front of the tanks.
Anyway, we finally broke through with our tanks and in that hedgerow territory. But on that first go-around, my lieutenant got up on top of the hedgerow because he wanted to demonstrate to the machine gunners how he wanted the fire.
After Lieutenant Jack directed the fire where he wanted it to go, there was an answering fire from the Germans. He was shot.
And Jack fell back, and we caught him as he fell off the hedgerow, and he said his last command was, move the gun, they've got it spotted.
Later, Mr. O'Brien got a pass back to Paris right before a battle, because the army got replacements all the time to give soldiers with a lot of combat experience breaks.
But when I came back, I wasn't much of a drinker then or now, but I bought a couple bottles of, one was champagne and one was some other liquor, and I brought this back to the guys, because after all, they'd been through one I'd missed.
Later, he got a small break to Nancy, France.
And I was walking down the city of Nancy, didn't know anybody, and I had a couple hours to kill before I had to go back to the front lines, and all of a sudden I hear somebody calling, Obi, Obi, Obi. It's my friend Gaxiola. So I had a couple hours, so we spent some time together, and then it was time for me to go back, and he got real serious. He said, Dick, are you ready to go? And I knew what he meant. I said, yeah, Gil, I'm ready. I said, how about you? And his exact words were, I'm right with the Lord.
A couple of months later, during the Battle of the Bulge, Gil's ambulance was accidentally hit by an artillery shell from the Germans.
Great guy and a great friend, and I'll never forget him and his sacrifice.
How do you think American nationalism impacted the war? Or affected it?
When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, the country came together like this. There's never been a period in my lifetime like it. Everybody wanted to do something. If you were in the States and you're in uniform and you put out your thumb, you're going to need a ride, man, people stop like that. Where can I take you, soldier?
During the war, it was obviously a really tough and hard time, but did you have like a favorite or best memory from the war?
Well, the best memory is my buddies, the guys I served with.
In general, a division consists of 15,000 people, then the regiments of 3,000, and a company of 160 people.
You get down to the squad, and that's 10 or 12 guys. Those are the ones you're closest to. And so it was, you have good memories of those people, and most of the people were solid. You could count on them. But some guys, just the trauma and the sound of artillery and machine guns was too much. It got them. And I thought I would get hit. I did get hit. I got wounded in a piece of shrapnel went through my shoe, stripped my little toe, so I do have a Purple Heart.
A Purple Heart is awarded to someone for being injured in battle.
So I qualified for that, but they also give it to the people that died. And they're the real heroes. They gave their lives for their country and for their fellow, to protect their fellow GIs.
What training and what preparation did you have to do for the war?
Well, the only preparation you have is that you have basic training, and they teach you how to. My gun in basic training was a carbine, and that's what I carried during the war. But when I became a radio operator, I carried a 300 radio on my back, and they said, well, now you get a pistol. I said, I don't want a pistol. I don't want someone getting 40 yards from me before I can take a shot at them. I'm going to keep my carbine. They said, well, you have to carry it. I said, that's okay with me. So I carried in addition to the backpack, the radio weighed about 30 pounds, I carried a carbine, a good gun. And I was a pretty good shot. And after the war, we were in Germany, and we were talking about who was a good shot. I said, well, I was a good shot. And they said, come on, you're a radio operator, you weren't a good shot. And I said, well, you see that light pole over there with that glass thing on top? I'm going to take that out. So I picked it up. It was about, 100 yards away. Boom!
Wow.
So they didn't kid me anymore.
Okay. Did people, for the most part, get along with each other?
Basically, we did, because I buddied with the young guys and the older guys buddied. But then when we got overseas, then it was whoever you were close to, whether they were 40 or 20.
How did you find out that you would be coming home?
We had finished the battle in France and Germany, and we were up on the Elbe River. Then we got the word that we were going to go back to the United States and train for a month for the invasion of Japan. We said, hey, we get to go back to the States. We get a 30-day leave. That was the deal. We said, great, we get to go home.
No one at the time knew about the bomb until Nagasaki and Hiroshima were destroyed.
And the Japanese surrendered. The war was over. But our ship to take us home was all ready to go. And so they said, well, okay, well, get on the ship, go home.
Mr. O'Brien and the 35th Infantry Division were the first division to return from Europe.
Do you still know any of the people that you were in battle with? Do you still communicate with them today?
Yeah, we have a division association that's out of Kansas, and we have reunions every year, and we go back, and I'm the division historian, and I was the president of the association back in 2007 when we had the reunion in St. Louis, Missouri.
How were you greeted when you got home?
Oh, I'll tell you a funny story. I got home, and some of my friends were home, mainly Navy guys, and they were younger than me, but they had all fake IDs. And so I came home, and we were going to go out to Hollywood to celebrate, our getting home successfully. And so I went to this bar, and bartender said, well, let's see some IDs. So Navy guys all tried out their IDs, and okay. So I give him mine. He looks at it, he says, Sergeant, you're 10 days shy of 21. Coke or root beer? So that was my greeting. But it was great to see old friends, find out what they'd done. Went back to my own high school, found out who'd been lost in the war.